Chapter 271, Chapter 194, A golden core has fallen, a downpour of blood. Soon more news came in. 4 of Huang He Master's disciples had been killed in battle one after another. Which 4? Li Chang'an was curious. He wanted to know if Murong Kang and the others were dead or alive. Soon he found out. Not a single person on his hit list had died. The 4 who died were Huang He Master's 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 7th disciples. The 4 had been traveling together when they were lured into a death trap by demon beasts and were all killed. 2 days later, a shocking piece of news spread. While hunting a Tier 3 demon king, Huang He Master was ambushed by a mysterious golden core expert and was severely injured. However, he managed to injure the mysterious golden core expert in return, and their status, dead or alive, was unknown. Upon hearing the news, Li Chang'an and Su Fugui's first thought was of Chu Danyu's master. The 2 of them immediately went to Chu Danyu's residence, only to find that Chu Danyu wasn't home. That mysterious golden core must be Elder Black Crow. He chose a good time to strike, managing to severely injure Huang He Master. I wonder if he'll be left with any lasting injuries, Li Chang'an mused. He had never expected Black Crow Master to be able to kill Huang He Master. He only hoped Black Crow Master would weaken him as much as possible. Just as he was thinking this, a wave of mournful wails suddenly erupted in the distance. Countless people were crying, heartbroken. The sounds merged into one, audible even from a great distance. What happened? Puzzled, Li Chang'an flew up to high vantage point on the walls of Yellow Crane Immortal City. He narrowed his eyes and looked closely. On the distant horizon, a procession of cultivators in plain mourning clothes was escorting a spirit coffin back to the city. Every one of them had bloodshot eyes and grief-stricken expressions, their tears flowing endlessly. The boundless sorrow seemed to infect the very heavens. Cold raindrops began to fall, appearing like a rain of blood against the crimson sky, drenching the entire land. At that moment, Mo Wenyuan, a Foundation establishment great cultivator of the Mo family, came to Li Chang'an's side. His expression was solemn as he said in a low voice, "It's the Red Leaf Valley Mu family. The Mu family's golden core ancestor has fallen." What? Li Chang'an was shocked. The fall of a golden core ancestor is a major event. Mo Wenyuan's tone was heavy. The Mu family ancestor was ambushed deep within the Black Dragon Mountain range by several Tier 3 demon kings. The other golden cores tried to rescue him but were blocked. He was forced into a desperate situation and ultimately self-detonated his golden core, taking a demon king with him. What was returning now was not the Mu family ancestor's body, but his blood-stained and shattered armor. The self-detonation of his golden core had long since obliterated his flesh and blood. After hearing this, Li Chang'an was lost in thought. A moment later, he cupped his fist and asked, "Taoist Mo, does the Mu family have any other golden core ancestors?" Yes, one at the fake pill realm. However, he suffered a severe injury in his early years and has never fully recovered. His strength is far below that of a normal fake pill cultivator, and he has been in seclusion within the clan, almost never making a move. In other words, the Mu family could now be considered the weakest among the 7 great noble families. While the Mo family and Zhou family had no core formation masters, their Tier 3 puppets and Tier 3 beast kings possessed combat power comparable to that of a regular cultivator with a true pill. If the Mu family failed to produce a new golden core master, their future would become increasingly difficult, and they might eventually be dropped from the ranks of the 7 great noble families. This kind of thing had happened countless times before. At its peak, the southern domain cultivation realm of the Zhao country once had more than 10 golden core clans, but now only 7 remain. Even a golden core clan could not guarantee it could withstand the ravages of time. For this very reason, Li Chang'an rejected the cultivation philosophy that prioritized family and descendants, focusing only on his own strength. A few days later, the golden core ancestors from the major powers returned one after another. The beast tide struck again, this time even more ferociously. An endless horde of demon beasts surged from the Black Dragon Mountain range like a continuous tide, relentlessly attempting to tear through the human race cultivators' defensive lines. Meanwhile, the major human powers had suffered heavy casualties in the Black Dragon Mountain range, and their defensive lines were nowhere near as solid as before. I wonder how much longer we can hold on. Li Chang'an watched the frenzied beast tide, feeling no will to fight. A sense of unease grew within him. The dark black dragon mountain range seemed to conceal many powerful auras. This is no place to linger. He transformed into a streak of light, about to leave Yellow Crane Immortal City. Unexpectedly, he ran into Mo Kingsu once again. Mo Kingsu's expression was indifferent as she asked icily, "Li Chang'an, are you running away again?" Again? Li Chang'an was taken aback for a moment. He cupped his fist but offered no explanation. "Taoist Mo, I have matters to attend to at home and cannot stay long." With that, his figure flickered, and he was gone in an instant. Mo Kingsu's eyes were icy as she watched him disappear over the horizon. Fleeing before battle, timid as a mouse, clinging to life and fearing death. She suddenly felt a pang of regret for giving Li Chang'an that favor token. But it wasn't right to ask for something back once it had been given. Half a day later, Li Chang'an returned to Chang'an Mountain. He began to prepare the medicinal solution required for the third layer of body refining. The path of body refining was especially important. It didn't require talent and provided immense combat strength. In the days that followed, his life continued as usual. Half a month later, the Cyan Cloud sect confirmed the deaths of Cao Xiaolong and the others, attributing the cause to demon beasts. No one suspected Li Chang'an at all. Far too many cultivators had died at the hands of demon beasts this time. Even several celestial prides had fallen, to say nothing of an ordinary foundation establishment cultivator like Cao Xiaolong. "That's right, the demon beasts killed them all. It has nothing to do with me." Li Chang'an was in a great mood after learning this news. The timing of his attack had been too perfect. The demon beasts were the perfect scapegoats. Thinking of this, Li Chang'an suddenly found himself missing Black Wind Mountain. Back in the King region, no matter what he did, he could just blame Black Wind Mountain. After all, Black Wind Mountain was already notorious. "It's a pity there are no suitable scapegoats near Yellow Crane Immortal City," Li Chang'an mused. "My 10,000 poison goo can release a Tier 2 poisonous fog. Perhaps I could use that to pose as a cultivator from the 5 poison wander lineage. It seems I can't neglect the cultivation of my 10,000 poison goo either." He decided to make a trip to the black market tomorrow to buy some poison Dao treasures. That night, Li Chang'an was soaking in his medicinal bath as usual. Just after midnight, a golden light materialized before his eyes. Divination has been refreshed. Today's divination, Auspicious. You go to the black market and buy a seemingly ordinary coffin. You lie in it for a night's sleep, learn array skills in your dreams, and wake up having mastered the craft of Tier 2 top-grade arrays. A coffin arrays. Li Chang'an was dumbfounded for a moment. The content of the divination was so bizarre that he didn't understand it at first. Chapter 272, Chapter 195, Dreaming Back to Ancient Times, The Rage of an Ant. One could master Tier 2 top-grade array skills by sleeping in a coffin for a single night. It was practically a fairy tale. If word of this got out, people would just think Li Chang'an had gone mad. Yet the truth was laid out right before his eyes, written with perfect clarity in the divination. Cultivation immortality techniques, especially skills like pills, talismans, artifacts, and arrays, have extremely high requirements for talent. Many cultivators practice for decades just to reach Tier 2. Li Chang'an stared at the divination's message, lost in thought. Even a genius couldn't possibly master a Tier 2 skill overnight. He was considered a peerless genius in the way of divination, yet it had still taken him 3 whole years to master Tier 2 divination. Mastering it in a single night, could it be the legendary overnight enlightenment? Li Chang'an recalled some of the rumors he had heard. According to legend, someone once achieved enlightenment overnight, gaining unimaginable power in a single night. There were also tales of those who understood the Tao in the morning and entered it by evening, a mortal at dawn who became a peerless master by dusk. These legends were too bizarre, and almost no one had ever witnessed them firsthand. In the current cultivation immortality realm, the vast majority of cultivators advanced one step at a time. "I never thought something like this would happen to me." Li Chang'an immediately got up, left Chang'an Mountain, and rushed to the black market overnight. The key to this matter lay with the coffin mentioned in the divination. He had to get there quickly before someone else bought it. About 2 hours later, Li Chang'an arrived at the black market without a hitch. Using his pupil of truth, his gaze profound, he scanned the stalls one by one. This treasure hunt was remarkably easy, simply because the coffin was too conspicuous. It was sitting not far away, measuring over 10 feet in length. It was the only coffin in the entire black market. Li Chang'an walked over. He examined the coffin closely, secretly using a trace of his foundation establishment magical power to investigate it. But to his surprise, the coffin felt completely unremarkable, yet he couldn't identify what kind of treasure the wood it was made from was. "Fellow cultivator, where did you get this coffin?" Li Chang'an asked the stall owner earnestly. The stall owner laughed. "Fellow cultivator, you have a good eye. You spotted the most valuable treasure at my stall with a single glance. This thing doesn't even have a trace of magical power fluctuation. How can it be the most valuable?" "That may be true, but what if there's an ancient treasure sealed inside the coffin?" The stall owner gave a sly laugh, not at all embarrassed as he enthusiastically hyped his product. This coffin was something he had dug up from a strange area within the Bloodstone secret realm. That area was filled with skeletons, layered one on top of another, and saturated with an aura of deathly silence. Besides the skeletons, there was almost nothing else to be seen. The deeper one dug, the more skeletons there were. Many cultivators had gone there to excavate in the past, trying to dig up other treasures, but they all eventually left looking dejected. It seemed as if the entire land was composed of countless skeletons. But the stall owner's luck was good. "Fellow cultivator, I'm a stubborn man. Even though I didn't find any treasure at first, I kept digging down. I dug thousands of feet deep and finally, amidst the endless skeletons, I discovered this coffin." Thousands of feet. Li Chang'an was left speechless. If what the man said was true, then he was indeed stubborn. At the same time, Li Chang'an was also quite surprised. A land thousands of feet deep, made entirely of stacked skeletons. Just how many people died in that region? The stall owner said with a smile, "Fellow cultivator, think about it. In that region, all the other skeletons were left exposed in the wilderness. Only this coffin is different. It either contains the body of an important figure or has a special treasure sealed inside. In other words, this coffin could be considered a kind of secret realm treasure chest." However, other secret realm treasure chests were mostly objects like chests, bronze vessels, or pottery jars. But this thing was just too unusual. Li Chang'an furrowed his brow, feigning hesitation. "Fellow cultivator, name your price." 5,000 spirit stones." "That's too expensive." Li Chang'an put on a troubled expression, as if he couldn't afford that many spirit stones. He patted the coffin and looked it over again. "Fellow cultivator, what if there's just an ordinary ancient cultivator's corpse inside? Wouldn't I suffer a huge loss? Make it cheaper. How about 50 spirit stones?" "Fellow cultivator, you." The stall owner's face stiffened. He almost thought Li Chang'an was there to cause trouble. He took a deep breath and maintained his patience. Next, the two of them haggled for a while. In the end, Li Chang'an bought the seemingly ordinary coffin for the price of 1,200 spirit stones. Afterward, he found Luo Beidong to ask for news about the Withered Wood Cliffmaster and learned that the man still hadn't returned. Luo Beidong said in a low voice, "This beast tide was far too terrifying. With the Withered Wood Cliffmaster's strength, it would have been very difficult to survive. He was probably devoured by countless demon beasts long ago." "That's true." Li Chang'an sighed, no longer holding out much hope. Now, he could only place his hopes on the Red Leaf Valley Mu family. The Mu family's golden core ancestor had fallen, leaving only a severely injured fake pill cultivator struggling to support the family. Perhaps it wouldn't be long before they were dropped from the ranks of the 7 great noble families. Once that fake pill cultivator died, Li Chang'an was confident he could obtain the Mu family's heaven and earth spirit root. His current strength was immense, comparable to the top cultivators in the middle stage of foundation establishment. Not even a cultivator in the late stage of foundation establishment could stop him. If he could cultivate the 2 spells, Cyan Wood Divine Light and Ancient Wood Divine Armor, to the stage of great success, and also perfectly master the spell he had developed on his own, he could absolutely go head-to-head with a cultivator in the late stage of foundation establishment. "This matter can't be rushed. I need to plan it out carefully." Li Chang'an temporarily suppressed this thought. He wandered around the black market for a bit and bought some poison Dao treasures. Afterward, he made another trip to Yellow Crane Immortal City and bought many of the treasures needed for the fourth layer of body refining at the 10,000 Treasures Tower. Chapter 273. Chapter 195. A Dream of Ancient Times, the Fury of an Ant. As evening fell, Chang'an returned to Chang'an Mountain. He took out the coffin, placed it inside his cave abode, and studied it for a long time, but he still couldn't make heads or tails of it. The divination was auspicious. Nothing bad should happen. Chang'an mused. After a while, he still felt uneasy, so he performed another divination. But the result of the divination was extremely vague, as if shrouded in mist and impossible to see through. Chang'an had no choice but to summon Xiaohai and Dawang and give them detailed instructions. Xiaohai, Dawang, I'm about to lie down in this coffin. If anything unexpected happens, the two of you must pull me out immediately. The two spirit beasts nodded, indicating they understood. Yang Muyu looked nervous, her small face filled with worry. Young master, are you going to die? Why are you getting into a coffin? Don't say such unlucky things. Chang'an patted her on the head and told her to go play outside. After arranging everything, he slowly backed away, activated the multiple array formation to its fullest extent, and then sent out a surge of magical power to flip open the coffin lid. Bang! The coffin lid flew into the air and landed to the side. Nothing unexpected happened. The coffin was completely empty. There was nothing inside. Chang'an took a deep breath, his expression grim, as he lowered himself into the coffin and slowly lay down. In that instant, mysterious and profound aura of time suddenly emanated from the coffin. Chang'an's eyes closed, and he instantly fell into a deep sleep. The kid, wake up. Faintly, it seemed someone was calling him. Chang'an's consciousness was clear and he wanted to wake up, but he couldn't open his eyes at all. He was astonished. What's going on? After a long moment, his eyes slowly fluttered open. Before him were several middle-aged men with weather-beaten faces. The kid, are you all right? You were covered in sweat, muttering things like Chang'an and King. Were you having a nightmare? The men all spoke at once, their questions filled with concern. I'm fine, everyone, don't worry. Chang'an replied aloud. What surprised him even more was that he hadn't spoken those words himself. They had come from the body he now occupied. At this moment, his state was very peculiar. He seemed to have possessed someone. He couldn't actively control or change anything, only experience everything from this person's first-person perspective. From the ensuing conversation, he learned this person's name was Li Ping'an. Bent on seeking immortality, he had left his hometown and embarked on the path to find immortals. The middle-aged men were all his companions on this quest. The kid, what were you dreaming about? You were out for so long. I dreamed I became an immortal, able to fly through the sky and burrow through the earth, omnipotent. Haha, that's a good omen. After some more conversation, the group set off once again on their path to find immortals. Along the way, they all spoke of their visions of and longing for the immortal Tao. In a few more months, we'll reach the immortal sect of the 10,000 Arrays sect. I've heard the 10,000 Arrays sect is the best among the 9 great sects when it comes to arrays. Hearing their conversation, Chang'an grew even more surprised. The 9 great sects were colossal powers that ruled the entire cultivation immortality realm during the ancient times, but they had long since vanished into the river of time. Could it be that these people aren't from the present day, but are figures from the ancient times? Their conversations along the journey continued to confirm Chang'an's suspicions. According to the divination's description, what I'm experiencing right now must be a dream. Chang'an never would have imagined that this dream would take him back to the ancient times. Several months passed without him noticing. The group drew closer and closer to the immortal sect, their party growing until it numbered over 20 people. On this day, they stopped to rest briefly in a prefectural city. First, let's get a good meal and build up our strength. The mountain road ahead is the most difficult stretch. As long as we can get through it, we'll reach the immortal sect. The leader of the group announced in a clear voice. This man's name was Lin Fan. He was the group's big brother and leader, the one with the most resolute faith in finding immortals. He had shouldered countless hardships for the group along the way. He took out a stack of silver notes and treated everyone to a fine meal at a restaurant in the city. A moment later, someone found a bug in their food. Furious, the man shouted for the chef to come and apologize. Before long, a female cook with delicate features came over, her face full of apology. "I'm so sorry, valued customer. The kitchen helper in charge of washing the vegetables must have missed it." The moment he saw her, most of the man's anger dissipated. "Haha, it's nothing. Everyone makes mistakes. I'm glad you understand, customer." The cook breathed a sigh of relief, a smile on her face. The man spoke again. "Young lady, there's no future in being a cook here. Why don't you come with us to seek immortality?" Hearing this, the cook looked troubled. "Customer, I'm still looking for someone. I have no interest in seeking immortality." "Oh, who are you looking for?" "My husband. He's a martial artist who went to participate in a martial arts tournament. He said he'd come back to marry me after he became the world's #1, but he still hasn't returned." These are chaotic times. The man thought for a moment, but didn't finish his sentence. But everyone understood. The cook's husband had most likely died somewhere. At this moment, Chang'an was stunned. The cook's voice and story were just too familiar, exactly the same as the cook from the mortal realm at the foot of Chang'an Mountain. But the body he was in currently had its back to the cook. Though countless questions flooded his mind, he couldn't control the body to turn around and see her face. Not long after, the group set off once again. After several days of arduous trekking, they finally arrived before the immortal sect. Chapter 274, Chapter 195, Dreaming Back to the Ancient Era, The Wrath of an Ant. Next, they excitedly took the tests. Ping'an was found to possess a middle-grade spirit root and a top-grade heart nature. He passed the test and was allowed to enter the immortal sect. However, most of the others didn't even have a spiritual root. Even Lin Fan, the big brother who had led them on their quest for immortality, only possessed a low-grade spirit root. While his heart nature was decent, he was too old to enter the immortal sect and ultimately had to leave. Before leaving, he instructed, "Ping'an, cultivate well in the sect, don't slack off." "Big brother, what will you do?" "Don't worry, a mere spiritual root can't hold me Lin Fan back." Unlike the others who were dejected, Lin Fan was still full of fighting spirit. And just like that, the gates of the immortal sect separated their fates. Ping'an followed an elder from the sect into the 10,000 Arrays sect. And Chang'an, through his perspective, saw what one of the 9 great immortal sects of the ancient times looked like. The entire 10,000 Arrays sect was built atop a mountain of unimaginable height. Ethereal clouds and mists drifted through the mountain, where overlapping vines clung to everything. Pavilions and halls appeared and disappeared within the haze, and one could faintly see countless spirit beasts frolicking in the woods. "Junior brothers, there are some sect rules you need to know in advance." A young disciple was in charge of guiding them, speaking as he walked. "The Handamen live at the foot of the mountain. Further up is where we official disciples reside. If you become an inner sect or true disciple, you can live even higher up." They hadn't been walking for long when a pavilion appeared up ahead. Inside sat an elder with an extraordinary air about him. The disciple secretly introduced him. "That's our sect's Elder Luo Kun. He's a divinity transformation celestial monarch. Elder Luo is the most approachable celestial monarch. Just offer a few words of flattery and he'll give you some pointers. You must all remember this, junior brothers." A divinity transformation celestial monarch. The eyes of the many new entry-level disciples went wide. To them, such a realm was simply too far out of reach. Chang'an was also shaken, because that elder Luo Kun's appearance was somewhat similar to his old friend, Luo Kun. Moreover, they both loved to be flattered. But the difference in their strength was simply too vast. "Oh, right. Elder Luo's cultivation philosophy clashes with the other elders in the sect's elder hall, and he's had a falling out with them. Junior brothers, you must never mention the other elders in front of him." The sect disciple leading them spoke up again. Before long, the group arrived at a large hall, completed the sect initiation ceremony, and each received an identity token. In the years that followed, Ping'an began his life cultivating in the sect. His talent was average, no different from the many other ordinary disciples. One day, the eldest martial brother of his lineage led them out of the sect on a mission for the first time. They boarded a spiritual boat, left the sect, and arrived in the mortal realm. The eldest martial brother sat cross-legged on the spiritual boat and said in a deep voice, "Junior brothers and sisters, you must understand that we are immortals. To us, the billions of lives in this mortal realm are nothing but ants, ours to harvest as we please." At first, the group didn't understand what their eldest martial brother meant. But they soon would. The flying ship suddenly stopped above a mortal city. Immediately after, the eldest martial brother flew out and stood in midair, letting out a great shout. Array activation. A terrifying array abruptly materialized, blanketing the entire city. In the next instant, countless screams echoed from within the array. Men and women, old and young, all of them wailed tragically under the array's power, dying in agony. Soul comes. The eldest martial brother held a small, strangely shaped cauldron. Instantly, tens of thousands of wailing, distorted souls flew into the small cauldron, turning into a wisp of black smoke. A moment later, the entire city was deathly silent, littered with corpses frozen in expressions of pain and despair. Not bad. This city yielded 100,000 souls. We just need to kill another 900,000 to satisfy the elder's request. The eldest martial brother nodded slightly, a satisfied look on his face. Aboard the flying ship, everyone's faces turned pale, unable to believe what they were seeing. The eldest martial brother had anticipated their reactions. He smiled and said, "Junior brothers and sisters, you have only just transitioned from mortals to immortals. You can't adapt right away, but you'll get used to it over time." With that, he steered the flying ship toward the next location in the mortal realm. Along the way, he mentioned a few things they needed to be aware of. Although our 9 great righteous sects have united the cultivation immortality realm, there is still some demonic influence lurking in the shadows. When you leave the sect for missions in the future, you must be careful. Those demonic cultivators, in their attempts to stop us from harvesting mortals, have already harmed many of our fellow disciples. Next, the eldest martial brother led the group to harvest a total of 1 million souls. But it wasn't over yet. He descended upon another city. This time, he didn't harvest ordinary mortals. Instead, he gathered a large number of pregnant women, cut open their bodies, and tossed the still-developing children into the array. Junior brothers and sisters, these mortal fetuses produce a trace of innate chi while developing. It's an excellent tonic that many of our seniors are fond of. As he spoke, he activated the array to extract the innate chi. This bloody scene caused several disciples with weaker constitution to faint on the spot. The eldest martial brother just chuckled and had them carried to their rooms on the flying ship to rest. For a while after that, the eldest martial brother demonstrated more than 10 other uses for mortals. For example, human soul lamps, human skin drums, human bone magical artifacts, and so on. Scene after scene left Chang'an deeply unsettled. How is the 10,000 arrays sect's way of doing things so similar to the demonic sects? On the way back, they passed by the city where they had previously harvested the pregnant women. The eldest martial brother took action once more, harvesting another batch. Satisfied, he was about to leave. Just then, down below, a mortal martial artist cradled his dead wife and child, his eyes bloodshot and wide with fury as he roared in agony. All immortals deserve to die. They all deserve to die. Hearing this, the eldest martial brother sneered. Had the fury of an ant. He couldn't be bothered to pay it any mind. He steered the flying ship and returned to the sect. Chapter 275. Chapter 196. Heaven and Earth Spirit Root, Eternal Green Vine. After returning to the sect, Li Ping'an began studying arrays. A few years later, he unexpectedly caught the eye of a divinity transformation celestial monarch and became his direct disciple. With his aptitude, it should have been impossible for a divinity transformation expert to take notice of him. However, he bore a striking resemblance to the celestial monarch's deceased son, and so his status skyrocketed. From then on, more resources were allocated to him, such as access to the sect's secret realms. The secret realms contained many lands of treasure. The strangest among them was a place named the Land of Memory. In this area were countless massive memory stones, which preserved many scenes from the cultivation immortality realms past. By stepping inside, one could personally experience the events within those scenes. This memory stone contains a recording of an elder performing array formation. It's very helpful to me. Li Ping'an often entered one of the stones, watching the elders array formation time and again to gain insights into the Tao of arrays. Unfortunately, his aptitude was simply too poor. His progress was extremely slow. I really have no talent for arrays. Maybe I should switch to alchemy. Although the 10,000 Arrays sect was famous for its arrays, it also had other cultivation immortality techniques. At this thought, Li Ping'an walked over to another memory stone nearby. This memory stone recorded a scene of a great master of the alchemy Tao, named Master Dan Cheng teaching his disciples. In the scene, the great master sat cross-legged before a massive pill furnace. He channeled his pill fire, feeding ingredients into the pill furnace one by one as he explained the refining process. This beast blood returning essence pill is of great benefit to body refining cultivators. When refining it, there are many points to which you must pay attention. Below, dozens of disciples sat cross-legged, listening with rapt attention. After the demonstration ended, Master Dan Cheng, with a kind and gentle expression, smiled and asked his disciples, "Did you all understand?" Most of the disciples shook their heads and began to voice the questions on their minds. Li Ping'an stood right in the middle of this scene. He watched this scene, his heart filled with yearning. I wonder what era this elder, Master Dan Cheng, is from. I truly wish I could become his disciple. He sighed softly at the thought. The scene in the memory stone was, after all, just an illusory image. But he was a real person, standing there like a phantom, completely out of place with the figures in the recording. Li Chang'an also mused to himself. If only I could become this elder's disciple. A moment ago, using Li Ping'an's perspective, he had watched the entire scene and gained great insight into the alchemy Tao. He wanted to watch it a few more times, but Li Ping'an had already left the memory stone to go back and contemplate arrays. Time passes unnoticed in cultivation. Many years later, Li Ping'an's mastery of arrays had reached the peak of Tier 2, and he was just one step away from Tier 3. He had wanted to go down the mountain to see the mortal realm. But the sect elders told him that the demonic influence outside the sect was growing increasingly rampant and had become a formidable power. Among them was a fiend named Lin Fan who was extremely cunning and powerful and had killed a great number of sect disciples. It was not a good time to leave the mountain. Lin Fan, could it be Brother Lin? Li Ping'an was shocked and uncertain. He felt an ever-growing urge to descend the mountain and find out the truth, but he was always prevented from leaving. The sect's situation seemed to be even worse than he had imagined. On this day, the entire 10,000 Arrays sect suddenly shook. Boom! An earth-shattering roar exploded. This is bad. Someone is attacking the sect protection array. Everyone, the situation is dire. A great catastrophe is upon us. Evacuate the talented disciples first. Countless anxious voices rang out from every corner of the sect. Outside the sect, more than 10 blurry figures appeared. The oppressive aura from each was utterly terrifying. They were all comparable to divinity transformation celestial monarchs. They attacked in unison with overwhelming power, causing the sect protection array to boom once more. Inside the sect, the shockwave sent countless disciples reeling, their faces paling as their chi and blood churned within them. Immediately after, a brilliant streak of light shot across the distant horizon. It blazed like a meteor from beyond the heavens, hurtling with terrifying and violent momentum toward the entire 10,000 Arrays sect. Upon closer inspection, the object was revealed to be a stone stele, grayish-white in its entirety. Carved upon the stele were 4 large words, "Immortal Tao must perish." 10,000 Arrays sect, today is the day of your destruction. You're dreaming. Elder Luo Kun roared in fury as he shot into the air to intercept the terrifying stone stele. Boom, the sound was like a clap of thunder. Heaven and earth shook. Luo Kun's face went pale and he spat out several mouthfuls of blood. But his figure remained unmoved. He had actually managed to withstand the stone stele by sheer force, preventing it from crashing into the sect protection array. Upon seeing this, the dozen or so enemies outside the sect spoke one after another, their voices filled with admiration. Worthy of the title, celestial pride of his generation, Elder Luo, to think he could withstand the immortal suppression stele all by himself. Elder Luo, your cultivation philosophy is different from theirs. You should have been one of us. Why must you die for them? Despite their overtures, Luo Kun remained unmoved and roared in fury. Evergreen vine, slay the enemy with me. In an instant, immense cyan rattan shot out from the surrounding clouds, like colossal pythons reaching for the heavens as they lunged toward the enemies outside the sect. One of them snorted coldly. So it's the eternal green vine. Isn't this heaven and earth spirit root a treasure of the ancient wood sect? Why is it in the 10,000 arrays sect? No wonder the ancient wood sect was annihilated so quickly. They actually lent their own sect's treasure to someone else. Hearing this, the many disciples in the sect below were horrified. What? The ancient wood sect has been destroyed. The ancient wood sect was a massive sect on par with the 10,000 arrays sect, one of the 9 great immortal sects. And now, such a powerful sect had actually been destroyed. What would be the fate of the 10,000 arrays sect? Panic spread throughout the sect. An atmosphere of unease and fear rapidly took hold. Li Pingyan was also flustered, unsure of what to do. Chapter 276, Chapter 196, Heaven and Earth Spirit Root, Eternal Green Vine. Just then his master, a divinity transformation celestial monarch, suddenly found him and placed a coffin before him. Pingyan, the great calamity is imminent. Quickly, get into this hermit coffin. It will help you survive this disaster. You will reawaken someday in a future era. A future era? Li Pingyan was visibly shocked. He had never heard of such a treasure. Master, what about you? I must escort a group of disciples to a small secret realm for sanctuary. Master, will we meet again? His master's expression was grave. He didn't give a direct answer, instead rapidly explaining a few things. Finally, Li Pingyan lay down in the coffin, and his consciousness began to fade. His master's parting words, filled with reluctance, were the last thing he heard before drifting into a deep slumber. Pingyan, don't be sad. If fate allows, we will meet again. An unknown amount of time passed. It felt like millennia had passed, yet it also felt like only an instant. Li Chang'an opened his eyes and groggily awoke. His mind felt like a complete fog, and all his past memories were hazy. Who am I? Why am I here? He rubbed his temples, a flicker of confusion in his eyes. Am I Li Pingyan or Li Chang'an? 2 different sets of memories seemed to intertwine in his mind, hazy and indistinct. He struggled to recall the past. After a long moment, he finally remembered. I am Li Pingyan. I lay in this hermit coffin to survive the great calamity, and I have only now truly awakened. That Li Chang'an was nothing more than another consciousness, one my physical body generated while I was slumbering. He frowned, carefully sorting through his memories. Perhaps because so much time had passed, many of his memories had grown indistinct, worn away by the years. Thankfully, I woke up in time. Otherwise, this consciousness called Li Chang'an would have most likely taken complete control of my body. He felt a wave of relief. He had truly survived the great calamity and awakened in a future era. There had been one small mishap, the appearance of this Li Chang'an consciousness, but he had already erased it. Just then, a brilliant golden light suddenly erupted in his mind. Something's wrong. He suddenly clutched his forehead, his expression contorting in agony as his head throbbed as if it were about to split open. Memories of his current life surged forth, no longer hazy. Scene after scene from his past flashed through his mind, crystal clear, reminding him of his true identity. I am Li Chang'an. There's something wrong with this hermit coffin. So the so-called awakening in a future era, does it actually mean possessing the body of someone from that time? Li Chang'an took a deep breath, unable to calm his racing heart. That had been far too close. He had almost lost himself completely, believing he was that person from ancient times. The only reason he had been able to snap out of it was the golden light that had suddenly appeared in his mind. That golden light was identical to the one that appeared with his daily divination. Clearly, it was the daily divination that had awakened him. If it had been anyone else, they would have likely fallen for it, completely forgetting themselves and becoming another person. After a long while, Li Chang'an finally calmed down. What just happened? Was it a moment of confusion, or did I truly face a possession attempt? He pondered silently. According to the divination's prompt, the memories of ancient times in his mind were supposed to be just a dream. But the dream had been far too vivid, as if a wisp of his consciousness had truly traveled through time, returning to ancient times and latching onto a cultivator named Li Pingyan. In the dream, Luo Kun looked very similar to the Luo Kun I know, and he was a divinity transformation celestial monarch. The dream also featured a stone stele engraved with the words, "The immortal Tao must perish." Those enemies called it the immortal suppression stele. That stone stele was very familiar to Chang'an. Back when he was still in King Marketplace, someone had unearthed a stone stele from a secret realm that was also engraved with the words, "The immortal Tao must perish." Although that stone stele emanated no magical power, its material was so special that not even a Foundation establishment great cultivator could shatter it. Luo Kun had once mentioned that the stone stele looked very familiar to him, but Chang'an hadn't noticed anything unusual about it. Looks like I'll have to go back and take another look at that stone stele. Chang'an mulled this over for a long time, his mind a tangle of thoughts. In any case, he had truly acquired Tier 2 array skills, and was now just a single step away from Tier 3. A moment later, he rose from the coffin and walked outside his cave residence. With a single thought, the surrounding arrays materialized. Previously, he only knew how to control these arrays. But now, he understood the skills of creating, mending, and improving arrays, and was extremely proficient in them. Now, without even using his pupil of truth, he could spot the flaws in several of the Tier 2 arrays with a single glance. If he wished, he could break through these arrays with just a casual flick of magical power from his fingertips. Even the Tier 2 top-grade mirror flower water moon formation wouldn't be able to hold him for long. Only the Tier 3 low-grade green wood transformation array seemed somewhat complex. He could not yet fully comprehend it. Chang'an stood with his hands clasped behind his back, gazing toward the horizon. The sky was just beginning to light with the first hint of dawn. An entire night had passed. Enlightenment in a single night. Chang'an murmured to himself. His situation was indeed just like the legends. Legend had it that after someone achieved enlightenment overnight, their personality would change drastically, as if they had become an entirely different person. Thinking about it now, those legends had to be true. Those people were simply unlucky. They had no treasures to protect them, so they lost themselves, their bodies taken over by the consciousness from the dream. Chang'an stood quietly for a long while, sorting through his thoughts. Only when the first rays of morning sunlight fell upon him did he return to his cave residence. Chapter 277, Chapter 196, Heaven and Earth Spirit Root, Eternal Green Vine. Can this hermit coffin be used a second time? He gazed at the coffin, pondering for a moment. In the dream he'd had, the scene from the memory stone of Master Dan Cheng teaching his apprentice had given him a great deal of insight. It even allowed him to faintly touch the threshold of a Tier 2 top-grade alchemist. This was significant because the only legacy he possessed was for Tier 2 middle grade. The path beyond that was severed. But that scene had been a great help, giving him a chance to reconnect his broken path. Chang'an wanted to lie in it again to try, but the memory of nearly losing himself before made him hesitate to take the risk. No rush, I'll see what tonight's divination reveals. He suppressed the urgency in his heart and remained calm. A moment later, Chang'an left Chang'an Mountain and looked toward the other three peaks. These three main peaks were all shrouded in arrays. In the past, he couldn't see them clearly, but now he could make them all out. The peak with the most arrays was Yuhangmei's, which had a full 7 interlocking Tier 2 arrays. There are many arrays, but they aren't working together perfectly. Some are redundant, and there are several flaws. If they were improved, only 5 arrays would be needed to achieve the same level of power. In the blink of an eye, Chang'an had identified the problems with her arrays. His current attainment in arrays was approaching Tier 3, while Yuhangmei had only just barely reached Tier 2 middle grade. The gap between them was immense. Just then, Yuhangmei suddenly left Zume Peak, transforming into a streak of red light to appear before Chang'an. The fragrance of plum blossoms immediately filled the air. She was dressed in a red robe, her skin fair and delicate. She smiled gently and said, "Taoist Li, why are you staring at my Zume Peak? Is there something amiss?" "It's nothing. I just felt that the arrays on Zume Peak seemed to have some vulnerabilities. If multiple enemies were to attack at once, they might be breached." "You worry too much, Taoist Li." Yuhangmei's smile was bright and full of confidence. "When it comes to alchemy, I cannot compare to you, Taoist Li, but the path of arrays is my specialty." "As you say, Taoist Yu." Chang'an cupped his hands in salute and said no more. After a brief conversation, He transformed into a streak of light and flew off, entering the mortal realm to find the chef he was looking for. However, the chef was no longer at the tavern. The shopkeeper informed him that the chef had left several months ago, saying she was going elsewhere to find her man. With a flicker, Chang'an's form vanished. He spread his divine sense, appearing all over the small mortal country and searching it inch by inch. To his surprise, he couldn't find the chef. How strange. Chang'an's brow furrowed, his confusion deepening. If she were just an ordinary mortal, it would have been impossible for her to evade his search. A moment later, he suppressed these doubts, left the mortal country, and went to the marketplace at the foot of Chang'an Mountain. Over the past few years, thanks to the diligent management of the three great families, the Chang'an marketplace had begun to take shape. Before long, Chang'an found Luo Tong at the Luo family's estate. Luo Tong was currently teasing his descendants, looking a bit more fatherly than before. "How many children do you have now?" "He, not that many, only 38. Luo Tong chuckled, picked up one of them, and had the child greet Chang'an. Chang'an was left a little speechless. 38 children in just a few years. The rate was frankly terrifying. Once these descendants grew up and started having children of their own, the number of Luo clan members would swell at an unimaginable rate. Chang'an casually took out a few inexpensive treasures and gifted them to the children. Afterward, he explained his purpose for visiting and asked about Luo Kun's feelings when he faced the stone steel back then. "That stone steel?" Luo Kun was a bit surprised. He had thought Chang'an was here for something else. He thought seriously for a moment before saying, "It just looked a little familiar, as if I had seen it somewhere before, but I couldn't remember where." "Is that so?" Chang'an pondered for a moment, his thoughts turning to the contents of his dream. Could that senior Luo Kun be this Luo Kun's past life? After a while, he left the Luo family estate. Instead of returning to Chang'an Mountain, he made a trip to Qinghe Marketplace. The next day, Chang'an returned with the stone steel. He went back to the Luo family's estate and had Luo Kun take another close look. This time, Luo Kun studied it intently for a long while. "Strange. Not only does this stone steel look familiar, but it also gives me a sense of danger," he said thoughtfully, voicing his feelings. "You don't remember anything else at all?" "No." Luo Kun shook his head. After some more conversation, Chang'an left with the stone steel and returned to the peak of Chang'an Mountain. He had a premonition that the events in his dream had actually happened, and that this stone steel was some kind of supreme treasure. However, his current strength was too low to discern its special qualities. "When I become stronger, perhaps I'll be able to complete its refinement." After a moment of thought, Chang'an tossed the stone steel into a corner of his storage pouch and decided not to worry about it for the time being. As for the hermit coffin, it too was tossed into a corner. This was because the previous night's divination had shown that nothing would happen if Chang'an were to lie in it again. It was useless now. In the days that followed, Chang'an cultivated as usual, occasionally checking on the status of the beast tide. Time flew by, and a month passed in the blink of an eye. On this day, a piece of news arrived from Yellow Crane Mountain. Su Fugui had achieved foundation establishment success. Seeing this news, Chang'an sighed with emotion. He finally succeeded. In fact, Su Fugui had already failed twice. Fortunately, his master, Wang Fun, had accumulated enough resources to gather what was needed for a third attempt, finally helping him succeed in his foundation establishment. Having a good master can really save you from many years of taking the wrong path. Originally, with Su Fugui's aptitude, it should have been nearly impossible for him to reach foundation establishment. But he just so happened to meet a master like Wang Fun. Fugui has a lifespan of 240 years now. That's a good thing. The immortal path was long, and Chang'an hoped his friends could all live a little longer. A smile appeared on his face as he began to rummage through his storage pouch. Before long, he found a suitable treasure, intending for it to be a gift for Su Fugui's foundation establishment ceremony. The next day, Chang'an set out for Yellow Crane Immortal City. When passing the black market, he changed into his Li Fan identity as usual and went inside to ask for news about the Withered Wood Cliffmaster. He had expected to come up empty-handed this time as well. But to his astonishment, the Withered Wood Cliffmaster had returned, alive. Chapter 278, Chapter 197, Another Venerable Soul Banner, Demon Vine. The withered wood cliff master had been missing for many years. He had vanished long before Li Chang'an even reached Foundation establishment. Back then, he had suffered a backlash from his spirit plant and ventured into the Black Dragon Mountain range alone, searching for a chance to survive. The last time he was seen, he was already gaunt and sallow-faced, so thin he was nothing but skin and bones, like a candle flickering in the wind. After so many years, everyone assumed he had died somewhere. But just a few days ago, he carved a bloody path through the beast tide and returned from the Black Dragon Mountain range. Furthermore, he had successfully reached Foundation establishment and was no longer the chi-refining junior cultivator of old who could only rely on his spirit plant. He actually reached Foundation establishment. It's absolutely true, Luo Beidong said with absolute certainty. The day the withered wood cliff master returned, nearly half the black market was shaken. A tyrannical Foundation establishment aura emanated from him. Just getting close was enough to make one gasp for air under the immense pressure. He said he had a brush with death in the Black Dragon Mountain range, where he stumbled upon a chance for Foundation establishment left behind by an elder. Then, in the ancient wood secret realm, he found a Tier 2 spirit vein and was fortunate enough to succeed. However, he still hasn't solved the problem of the backlash from his spirit plant. Even after succeeding in Foundation establishment, the withered wood cliff master was still suffering from the spirit plant's backlash. He couldn't bear it any longer, so he sent out a message inviting fellow Foundation establishment Taoists to help him resolve the issue. At this, Luo Beidong sighed. Unfortunately, he specified that he wants Foundation establishment great cultivators. Taoist Li, you don't have a chance. That's not necessarily true. Li Chang'an smiled and released a trace of his Foundation establishment aura. Upon sensing this aura, Luo Beidong's expression changed drastically. His eyes went wide as he stared at Li Chang'an in shock. Taoist Li, you've reached Foundation establishment. Yes. Li Chang'an smiled. I got lucky and found a Tier 2 demon core during the beast tide. I had someone refine a Foundation establishment pill for me, and I managed to succeed. This is truly. Luo Beidong was so shocked he was momentarily speechless. He took a deep breath. A moment later, he cupped his fists in a bow, his tone more solemn than ever before. Elder Li. Li Chang'an nodded slightly. Luo Beidong's expression became even more respectful. Elder Li, since you've reached Foundation establishment, this makes things much easier. Please wait here for a moment. I'll go get someone from Withered Wood Cliff for you. With that, he hurried away. Before long, Luo Beidong returned with Hu Yu. It was Hu Yu who had invited Li Chang'an to join Withered Wood Cliff in the first place. After the Withered Wood Cliff master entered the Black Dragon Mountain range, Hu Yu became the temporary head of Withered Wood Cliff, managing all its affairs. Now that the Withered Wood Cliff master had returned, he had not retaken control, allowing Hu Yu to remain in charge. Now, upon learning that Li Chang'an had reached Foundation establishment, Hu Yu was also shocked. Elder Li. Who we meet again, Li Chang'an said with an easygoing smile. Hu Yu never would have imagined that a loose cultivator he had casually invited back then would now become a Foundation establishment great cultivator. By that logic, Withered Wood Cliff now had 2 Foundation establishment cultivators. Elder Li, you wish to meet with Elder Wu. The Elder Wu he spoke of was none other than the Withered Wood Cliff master. Wu Ming. Li Chang'an nodded. Where is Taoist Wu now? Elder Wu went to another region. He plans to invite a senior elder to help him resolve the spirit plant backlash. He won't be back for another 3 days. All right, then I'll come find him in 3 days. Li Chang'an wasn't too worried. If that strange vine truly was a heaven and earth spirit root, its backlash wouldn't be so easy to resolve. A moment later, Li Chang'an left the black market and headed for Yellow Crane Immortal City. Inside the Immortal City, at Yuelai Restaurant, the past few days had been filled with joy. Su Fugui had successfully reached Foundation establishment and had taken over the restaurant from Wang Fun. Just as it had been when Li Chang'an reached Foundation establishment, people had been coming to see him in a constant stream these past few days. Some came to congratulate him, others to invite Su Fugui to join their factions. Fugui, congratulations, Li Chang'an said with a smile as he entered the restaurant. Su Fugui was originally on the second floor, but he hurried downstairs upon hearing the voice. "Big brother, you could have just come. Why bring a gift? Oh, you didn't bring a gift." He had received so many gifts recently that he subconsciously tried to refuse, only to realize Li Chang'an was empty-handed, which made things a little awkward. Li Chang'an chuckled. A flash of spiritual light appeared in his hand, and a celebratory gift materialized. He tossed it over casually. "These are some partial remains from a few Tier 2 demon beasts. The flesh and blood can be used to make some decent spiritual cuisine. Take them and get some practice." "Thanks, big brother." Su Fugui was overjoyed. His spirit chef skills were stuck at Tier 1 peak. He was just one step away from Tier 2 and was in desperate need of some Tier 2 ingredients to practice with. This gift couldn't have come at a better time. Afterward, the two of them went up to the second floor together. Li Chang'an told Su Fugui about the path of foundation establishment and stressed the importance of one's cultivation technique. "Fugui, what cultivation technique are you practicing now?" "Big brother, the cultivation technique I'm practicing was passed down to me by my master. Its tier just barely reaches Earth grade," Su Fugui answered truthfully. His master, Wang Fun, had a fortunate encounter in his youth and obtained this cultivation technique in a secret realm. The limit of liquid magical power that could be condensed with this technique was 301 drops, just barely crossing the threshold for an Earth-grade technique. Hearing this, Li Chang'an couldn't help but reflect once again. Having a good master really makes the path of cultivation much easier. With this Earth-grade technique, Su Fugui wouldn't have to worry about a cultivation technique during the foundation establishment stage and could continue to cultivate smoothly. As for the matter of golden core, Su Fugui hadn't even thought about it. "Big brother, I failed at foundation establishment twice. I have no hope of reaching golden core in this lifetime. I probably won't even make it to the middle stage of foundation establishment." Chapter 279, Chapter 197, Another Venerable Soul Banner, Demon Vine. Su Fugui knew where he stood. His aptitude was too poor. He considered it a stroke of luck that he had even reached foundation establishment and didn't dare hope for any further advancement. From now on, he planned to focus his energy on running the restaurant and on his personal family. A family? Li Chang'an wasn't surprised. His old friend had finally decided to walk the path of establishing a family clan. As he spoke, Su Fugui suddenly sighed. "Big brother, you should start making plans too. The path to the golden core is simply too difficult. It might be better to let your descendants walk it for you." He had once believed that Li Chang'an had a chance at reaching the golden core. But now, having reached foundation establishment himself, he finally understood just how arduous the path to the golden core truly was. For someone with a low-grade spirit root, aspiring to form a golden core was nothing short of a fool's dream. "I understand. As for starting a family, let's talk about it some other time." Li Chang'an smiled, not wishing to dwell on the topic. For the next 2 days, he stayed at the Yuelai restaurant. With him there, Su Fugui could face the various major powers with more confidence. 2 evenings later, Chu Danyu suddenly appeared. He carried a congratulatory gift and looked travel-worn, as if he had just rushed back from a faraway place. "Fugui, the moment I heard you reached foundation establishment, I rushed straight to the immortal city. I'm not too late, am I? Has your foundation establishment ceremony started yet?" "It hasn't started yet. Big bull, you've come at the perfect time." Su Fugui greeted him with a smile. Soon, he was surprised to discover that Chu Danyu had also reached foundation establishment. Li Chang'an noticed as well and asked, "Big bull, when did you reach foundation establishment?" "It's been over half a year." Chu Danyu seemed a bit embarrassed. He had been away and hadn't had the chance to tell them. He admitted that he had failed foundation establishment once. He only succeeded on his second try. A moment later, the three of them gathered in a room on the second floor, drinking and chatting happily. "Back then, those elders from the Cyan Cloud sect thought our talent was poor, and our chances of reaching foundation establishment were slim, so they wouldn't let us into the immortal sect. But now, all 3 of us brothers have reached foundation establishment." Chu Danyu and Su Fugui were both filled with emotion as they recalled the old days. Back when they were still struggling in the King marketplace. How could they ever have imagined a day like this? Li Chang'an was also feeling sentimental. Actually, it's not just the three of us who have reached foundation establishment, he thought. There's also Yi Hao, who's out there as a tribulation cultivator. Now, Yi Hao had founded the Huang Alliance, dedicated to opposing Yellow Crane Immortal City. He'd done quite well for himself these past few years and had already made a small name for himself in this region. Speaking of which, Yi Hao's path had been even harder than theirs. Li Chang'an had his divination, while Su Fugui and Chu Danyu had masters. But Yi Hao could only rely on himself and his own ethereal luck. After a few rounds of drinks, the three began to talk about Huang He Master. Big Bull, was it your master who ambushed Huang He Master deep in the Black Dragon Mountain range? It was. Chu Danyu didn't hide anything, telling them everything without reservation. His master had chosen the perfect moment, managing to heavily injure Huang He Master. However, his master was also wounded by the combined attack of Huang He Master and that Tier 3 spiritual crane. He was now recuperating in a cave dwelling deep within the ancient wood secret realm. Hearing this, Li Chang'an felt a sense of relief. It's good that Black Crow Master didn't die, he thought. He'll be able to fight again in the future. Since they were in Yellow Crane Immortal City, the three of them didn't continue this topic, and instead started discussing the path forward after foundation establishment. Chu Danyu had no plans to start a family clan for the time being. He wanted to continue looking after the heavily injured Black Crow Master until the Master finally settled his grudge with Huang He Master. The three of them continued to drink and chat. Before they knew it, it was late at night. Just after midnight, a golden light appeared before Li Chang'an's eyes. Divination has been refreshed. Today's divination, Auspicious. You will go to the black market, where you will meet the withered wood cliff master, Wu Ming, and the mutated heaven and earth spirit root, the eternal green vine. You will ultimately move the eternal green vine with your own conviction, causing it to acknowledge you as its master. Eternal green vine. Li Chang'an's entire body trembled when he saw those three words. When he dreamed of ancient times, he had also seen an eternal green vine. That evergreen vine's power had been especially terrifying. Each of its vines was 10,000 jang long, like a legion of cyan pythons, capable of matching a divinity transformation celestial monarch. He never would have imagined that he would have the good fortune to obtain one himself. Once I obtain this evergreen vine, I can cultivate the spirit ascension technique. Even with Li Chang'an's composed temperament, he couldn't help but feel a surge of excitement. Finally, he would no longer have to endure the sluggish cultivation speed of a low-grade spirit root. After a moment, he took a deep breath, barely managing to suppress his excitement. The heaven and earth spirit root isn't in my hands yet. Anything could happen before then. I can't celebrate too early. Big brother, what's wrong? Both Su Fugui and Chu Danyu had noticed the shift in Li Chang'an's mood. Li Chang'an smiled. It's nothing, I just thought of something happy. Let's keep drinking. He was in high spirits, so he raised his cup and continued drinking with the two of them. The next day, at the first light of dawn, Li Chang'an left Yellow Crane Immortal City and, changing into his identity as Li Fan, went to the black market. This time, he successfully met the withered wood cliff master, Wu Ming. Haha, Taoist Li, I have long heard of your great name. Wu Ming was all smiles as he personally came out to greet him. He had indeed reached foundation establishment. However, his aura was somewhat weak, and his face was a sallow yellow. He looked sickly and listless. He didn't look like a foundation establishment great cultivator at all. Instead, he resembled a terminally ill patient who had suffered from a chronic illness for years. Taoist Wu, your aura seems off, Li Chang'an said in a low voice. Wu Ming gave a bitter smile and sighed deeply. Indeed, I was too greedy back then. I knew I couldn't suppress that demon vine, yet I still allowed it to grow to Tier 2, simply because I coveted its Tier 2 combat strength. With that, he led Li Chang'an into a secret chamber. Inside the secret chamber, Chapter 280, Chapter 197, another venerable soul banner, Demon Vine. There were three other foundation establishment powerhouses. They had all come for the Tier 2 Demon Vine. Taoist Li, allow me to make some introductions. As the host, Wu Ming immediately began. Among the three of them was a man named Jiang Yunsheng, who wore a black mask and exuded a gloomy, sinister air. Like Li Chang'an, he also possessed a venerable soul banner, and his contained several thousand souls. Taoist Jiang. Li Chang'an cupped his hands in greeting. Zhang Yunsheng's gaze was cold as he sized him up. Your Li Fan, I'm interested in that venerable soul banner of yours. How about you sell it to me? Taoist Jiang, I'm interested in your venerable soul banner as well. Li Chang'an smiled faintly. Zhang Yunsheng snorted coldly and said no more. Beside him stood a young man in a dark green robe. Wu Ming introduced him. Taoist Li, this is Taoist Tang Yuan. He is the son of the five poison wanderer. Taoist Tang. Li Chang'an was inwardly surprised. The three tribulations alliance and the five poison wanderer lineage have always been rivals. I never expected the son of the five poison wanderer to come and help Wu Ming. Tang Yuan's expression was cold, his pupils tinged with green. He gave a faint acknowledgement. Taoist Li, I've heard much about you. Afterward, Wu Ming introduced the last person. This was an old man in a black robe, his face gaunt and withered. Taoist Li, this is Taoist Black Talisman. He's a Tier 2 top-grade talisman master. Greetings, Taoist Black Talisman. Li Chang'an was even more astonished. He had heard of this man's reputation. The Black Talisman Old Demon, a late stage of Foundation establishment powerhouse with Tier 2 top-grade talisman art. He's incredibly famous among tribulation cultivators. I can't believe even he's here. After the round of introductions, Li Chang'an was now acquainted with the three men. Wu Ming waved his hand, enveloping the entire secret chamber with an array. All right, all four of you are here. No one else will be coming today. Taoist Wu, what exactly is your situation? And where is that demon vine? Zhang Yunsheng spoke up, questioning Wu Ming. Li Chang'an and the others remained silent, but their gazes all converged on Wu Ming. You will all know soon enough. Wu Ming's expression was bitter as he removed his black robe. In the next instant, they all witnessed a shocking sight. The Wu Ming before them could no longer be considered a normal cultivator. His entire body was covered in scarlet, demonic vines. These vines extended bizarre root systems that burrowed into his skin and flesh. Like man-eating vipers, they were madly and greedily absorbing his power. Everyone, this is the demon vine. Wu Ming sighed, revealing his miserable state to the group. According to him, he had been in this state since before he even reached Foundation establishment. If not for this, he wouldn't have had to enter the Black Dragon Mountain range, risking death in search of a sliver of hope. When I first subdued this demon vine, it only needed to be fed the flesh and blood of ordinary demon beasts. But later, it grew stronger and stronger, its power even surpassing my own. It required more and more demon beast flesh and blood. Until one day, Wu Ming recounted his past, allowing the four of them to make their own judgments. After the demon vine advanced to Tier 2, it completely broke free of his control. It even turned the tables, parasitizing his body and turning him into a puppet that supplied it with power. From then on, he had to desperately absorb all sorts of treasures to prevent himself from being completely devoured by the demon vine. Now, even though he had achieved Foundation establishment, he still couldn't break free of its control. The demon vine's roots had already burrowed into his flesh, bones, internal organs, and even his meridians and dantian. As he was purely a walking spirit field. Every day he lived was filled with immense suffering. I see, Zhang Yunsheng said thoughtfully, his gaze fixed on the demon vine. This demon vine, could it be the legendary blood poison vine? It doesn't seem like it. Tang Yuan shook his head slightly. The blood poison vine was a very strange type of poisonous creature that could parasitize a cultivator or demon beast, growing slowly inside its host's body. Before it fully matured, it wouldn't appear on the outside of the body. If it's not a blood poison vine, could it be a magic cloud vine? That doesn't seem right either. The people in the secret chamber began to discuss, mentioning one bizarre demon plant after another. Li Chang'an would chime in occasionally, but he spent most of his time observing. This demon plant, according to the hints from my divination, this is the heaven and earth spirit root, the eternal green vine. But the evergreen vine I saw in my dreams was entirely cyan green, while this one is completely scarlet and radiates a dangerous aura. Taoist Wu, does this demon plant only devour your power? Will it devour other things? It will. Wu Ming nodded and immediately patted his spirit beast bag. A ray of spiritual light flew out of the spirit beast bag, transforming into a Tier 1 top-grade demon beast. The demon beast's eyes were filled with terror, pinned in place by the pressure of the Foundation establishment cultivators. Next, Wu Ming casually slashed open the demon beast's skin. The thick scent of blood filled the air. The demon vine on his body instantly stirred, as if it had smelled some kind of delicacy. Its tendrils shot out toward the demon beast, wrapping around it tightly. Countless bloody roots grew out, piercing into the beast's body. Under everyone's watchful eyes, in just a few moments, the demon beast was completely devoured. All the flesh and blood inside it vanished, leaving behind nothing but a shriveled demon skin. This demon vine is truly bizarre. Could it be a variant of the ghost vines from the ghost vine forest? The black talisman old demon mused for a long time before offering his judgment. There was a ghost vine forest in the ancient wood secret realm. The methods of those ghost vines were similar to this demon vine. They both liked to entangle their prey. However, prey ensnared by ghost vines didn't die so quickly. They would only be slowly corroded by the venom secreted by the vines. Everyone, you've all seen it. Do any of you have a solution? Wu Ming's aura was weak as he pleaded for help, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. The 4 people in this secret chamber are all renowned. Perhaps one of them really can help me. A moment later, Jiang Yunsheng slowly walked toward Wu Ming, his eyes filled with caution. Let me give it a try. Chapter 281. Chapter 198. Spirit Seed obtained, ambushed halfway. The atmosphere in the secret chamber was eerie, filled with the faint scent of blood. Jiang Yunsheng walked forward. A spiritual light flashed in his hand, and a most peculiar treasure appeared. This treasure looked like a piece of flesh, giving off a faint, bloody scent, yet it bore the grain of wood. Upon seeing the treasure, Li Chang'an's gaze sharpened. Beast blood wood. Indeed, you have a sharp-eyed Taoist Li. Jiang Yunsheng nodded slightly and began to explain the treasure. This beast blood wood was exceptionally precious because its growing conditions were incredibly harsh. It could only sprout in places where vast numbers of demon beasts had perished. During its growth, it absorbs the essence blood of countless demon beasts. To demon beasts and demon plants that craved blood, this beast blood wood was the perfect bait. I once used this piece of beast blood wood to lure a few ghost vines out of the ghost vine forest, Jiang Yunsheng stated calmly. Hearing this, Wu Ming and Tang Yuan were both rather surprised. Taoist Jiang, you are truly as skilled as you are bold. To think you would dare to go after those ghost vines. Everyone always made a point to go around the ghost vine forest. Even Foundation establishment cultivators were unwilling to go near it. Yet Jiang Yunsheng dared to provoke them intentionally. Taoist Wu, stand right there and don't move. Let me see if I can lure this demon plant off of you. All right. A look of anticipation crossed Wu Ming's face, and he was visibly excited. He had suffered this torment for far too long and couldn't bear it for another day. This piece of beast blood wood gave him a glimmer of hope. Then, Jiang Yunsheng made a light cut on the beast blood wood. A rich, bloody aroma, mixed with a hint of a peculiar sweetness, wafted out. Even Tang Yuan, who was standing to the side, subconsciously gulped. Just as expected, the demon plant on Wu Ming's body reacted. Hiss, hiss. It slowly withdrew its roots, which slithered like a roaming spiritual snake, inching toward the beast blood wood. At the sight of this, a look of joy washed over Wu Ming's face. The beast blood wood is actually working. It's luring the demon plant off me. With a solemn expression, Jiang Yunsheng used his magical power to slowly move the beast blood wood backward, continuously drawing the demon plant toward it. Time passed slowly. Before they knew it, 15 minutes had gone by. At this moment, the parasitic demon plant on Wu Ming had already detached by nearly half and was still pulling away. Just when success seemed within reach. Suddenly, the demon plant stopped. It stopped reaching for the beast blood wood. As if sensing danger, it retracted with incredible speed, re-embedding itself in Wu Ming's body within a few breaths. How could this be? Wu Ming's face turned grim, unable to accept what had happened. He had just seen a glimmer of hope after so much difficulty, only for it to vanish in an instant. Jiang Yunsheng took a deep breath. Don't worry, Taoist Wu, let me try again. Next, he tried several more times. But the result was the same every time. Each time the demon plant had detached by about half, it would rapidly retreat. It was extremely wary and utterly refused to leave Wu Ming's body. Jiang Yunsheng then took out several other treasures to try and lure it away. But without exception, They all failed. He let out a deep sigh. Taoist Wu, this demon plant is trickier than I imagined. It seems I cannot help you today, but I will continue to look for a solution. Thank you for your trouble, Taoist Jiang. Wu Ming was disappointed but didn't let it show. He clasped his hands and thanked him. Zhang Yunsheng put away the beast bloodwood. He stopped trying and retreated to the side to recover his magical power. A moment later, the black talisman old demon stepped forward with a smile. Let me give it a try. The words had barely left his mouth when streams of withered, yellow talismans flew out of his storage pouch. These talismans were unlike any normal ones. They looked like decaying leaves, and each emanated an aura of rot. The black talisman old demon explained. These are Tier 2 top-grade talismans, 100 withering talismans. The 100 withering talisman was unique. The power it releases has little effect on human race cultivators or demon beasts, but it is a fatal threat to spirit plants. I've used it to kill several Tier 2 demon plants in a secret realm before. I've never failed. The black talisman old demon smiled, brimming with confidence. Hearing this, hope once again welled up in Wu Ming's heart. The black talisman old demon has been famous for ages, and he's the strongest one in this chamber. He has so many tricks up his sleeve. Maybe he can really solve this for me. Go. The black talisman old demon gave a great wave of his hand. A dozen or so 100 withering talismans ignited in unison, releasing a strange, withering power as they flew toward the demon plant. The method was indeed effective. The moment they made contact, the demon plant's vines began to wither. They turned from scarlet to a grayish-brown, exuding an aura of death before crumbling into specks of decayed ash. My talismans really work. The black talisman old demon's smile grew wider. He unleashed several dozen more 100 withering talismans, intending to destroy the demon plant completely. But just then, Wu Ming's expression turned to panic as his life force plummeted. Dao's black talisman stopped quickly. The black talisman old demon also realized something was amiss and immediately pulled back. With a beckoning wave of his hand, he recalled all the talismans. In just those few breaths, Wu Ming had shriveled up, becoming as gaunt as a skeleton. He frantically took out some restorative elixir pills and treasures and swallowed them, barely managing to stabilize his aura. The black talisman old demon asked, Taoist Wu, what happened? Sigh. Wu Ming, looking haggard, let out another sigh. He slowly explained. Just now, after some of the demon plant's vines had withered, it had suddenly begun to frantically drain the power from his body to sprout new vines. In other words, before the demon plant could be completely withered, Wu Ming himself would be drained dry and perish on the spot. This complicates things. The black talisman old demon's brow furrowed, and he fell into deep thought for a long while. He then tried various other methods, but all of them were useless. Chapter 282, Chapter 198, Spirit Seed obtained midway ambush. He was out of options. Then, Tang Yuan, son of the 5 poison wanderers, stepped forward. With a flash of light, an entirely emerald green crystal stone appeared in his hand. This is a cyanwood elemental crystal, an excellent choice for cultivating spirit plants. This cyanwood elemental crystal was a treasure no less valuable than beast blood wood. A single fist-sized piece was worth over 10,000 spirit stones, and the one in Tang Yuan's hand was significantly larger than an average fist. He also chose to use it as bait, attempting to lure the demon plant away. This time, the attempt went better than when Jiang Yunsheng had used the beast blood wood. The demon plant actually detached more than halfway, appearing to desperately covet the cyanwood elemental crystal, but it ultimately retreated. This demon plant is so cautious. Tang Yuan looked displeased. He didn't give up, however, as he had come specifically for this demon plant and intended to take it with him. Next, he took out numerous treasures, even borrowing the beast blood wood from Jiang Yunsheng, and tried to lure the demon plant with multiple items at once. But no matter what he tried, the demon plant refused to completely leave Wu Ming's body. Finally, Tang Yuan had no choice but to give up. Taoist Wu, my skills are lacking. I can't do anything more. A flicker of regret crossed his eyes as he put away his treasures and retreated to one side to recover his magical power. In the hidden chamber, only Li Chang'an had yet to act. But after the other 3 had failed, Wu Ming no longer held out any hope. any one of those three had a greater reputation than Li Chang'an. If even they were helpless, what could Li Chang'an possibly do? Taoist Li, would you like to give it a try? Wu Ming asked Li Chang'an casually, his expression grim. Li Chang'an considered it for a moment. All right, I'll give it a try as well. With that, he remained motionless, only extending a wisp of his divine sense to slowly approach the demon plant. Imbued within this wisp of divine sense was his conviction for eternal life. Seeing this, the others were somewhat puzzled. Tang Yuan's pupils glowed emerald green as he stared at Li Chang'an. Taoist Li, are you planning to use yourself as bait to attract the demon vine? Not at all, I'm merely communicating with it. Communicating? Tang Yuan found the idea absurd, but kept his thoughts to himself. This demon plant is bizarre and extremely wary. How could it possibly be easy to communicate with? He simply said flatly, well, I wish Taoist Li success then. In his view, this attempt at communication was doomed to fail. The other two thought so as well. Wu Ming was even more disappointed, sighing to himself. It seems this Li Fan has only just reached foundation establishment. He must not have any treasures, so he can only resort to this kind of method to deal with the demon vine. If communication actually worked, I would have been free long ago. Why would I have needed to risk my life entering the Black Dragon mountain range? Sure enough, for the next quarter of an hour, the demon vine showed only a faint reaction to the conviction for eternal life that Li Chang'an was transmitting. It was not a strong response at all. Wu Ming couldn't help but send a private sound transmission. Taoist Li, this demon vine was already difficult to handle. After the luring attempts by Taoist Jiang and the others, it's become even warier than before. It's perfectly normal to be unable to communicate with it. He was saying this to give Li Chang'an a graceful way out. But Li Chang'an didn't seem to grasp the underlying meaning of his words. He said in a low voice, Taoist Wu, don't be hasty, just wait a little longer. As he spoke, he released a sliver of evergreen magical power. This sliver of magical power was far from simple. It contained a full day of his lifespan. Cultivators of the ancient wood evergreen technique could consume their own lifespan to ripen spirit plants or heal the sick. But Li Chang'an had never used this ability before, simply because he had never deemed it worthwhile. Today was the first time he had ever used this ability. The moment this sliver of magical power touched the demon vine, it suddenly froze. Then, it reacted with unprecedented violence, as if it had gone mad. Xianxia. It frantically tore out its own roots, rapidly detaching from Wu Ming's body and lunging toward Li Chang'an. Upon seeing this, everyone present was utterly shocked. They simply couldn't comprehend how Li Chang'an had done it. Amidst his shock, a look of joyous surprise washed over Wu Ming's face. The roots that had pierced his meridians, dantian, and internal organs had all been withdrawn. Taoist Li, just hold on a little longer. He hurriedly sent a sound transmission, terrified that Li Chang'an would give up now. But Li Chang'an had come for the evergreen vine from the very beginning. He had no intention of giving up halfway. Just a few breaths later, the demon vine had completely detached from Wu Ming's body. It transformed into a thrashing, scarlet monstrosity that lunged wildly at Li Chang'an. Clearly, it wanted to make Li Chang'an its new host. But what Li Chang'an wanted was not a parasitic relationship, but the symbiotic one mentioned in the spirit ascension technique. With a flicker of movement, he dodged it and unleashed streams of evergreen magical power to ensnare the demon vine. Then, he transmitted more of his conviction for eternal life. Enveloped by wisps of this conviction, the demon vine gradually grew calm. Its scarlet vines slowly turned gray, similar to how they looked when affected by the 100 withering talisman's power, and began to crumble into ash. This scene left everyone present even more stunned. The demon vine is withering on its own. None of them understood what was happening. Only Li Chang'an himself knew the truth. Under the influence of his conviction, the demon vine had abandoned its current twisted, bloodthirsty power. It had chosen to be reborn, to grow into a true eternal green vine. A moment later, all the demon vine's tendrils and roots had turned to ash. In the pile of ash, only a single emerald-like bluish-green seed remained. Come, Li Chang'an beckoned with his hand. The seed flew into his palm. He felt a surge of excitement. This was, after all, a heaven and earth spirit root. his hope for improving his own spiritual root. But he concealed his excitement well. Taoist Wu, it seems this demon vine and I share a certain affinity. Would you be willing to sell it to me? Chapter 283. Chapter 198. Spirit seed obtained, ambushed on the way. Li Chang'an looked at Wu Ming and asked in a low voice. He had already made up his mind. If Wu Ming won't sell, I'll just take it by force. The seed is already in my hands anyway. All I have to do is fight my way out. This concerns my Tao path. I can't back down an inch. Haha, Taoist Li, if you want this thing, just take it. Wu Ming's face was flushed with excitement. He laughed heartily, feeling better than he had in a long, long time. For this day, he had waited far too long. A moment ago, when the other three had failed one after another, he had been on the verge of despair. But Li Chang'an, the one he'd thought least likely to succeed, had permanently solved his problem. Inside the secret chamber, the other three still found it hard to believe. All of their methods had ended in failure. How on earth had Li Chang'an succeeded? Could it really be just through communication? Zhang Yunsheng couldn't understand and couldn't help but ask, Taoist Li, how did you do it? Li Chang'an replied, I promised this demon vine a greater future. That's it. Zhang Yunsheng was stunned. No treasure was needed, just a promise. What was the difference between that and getting something for nothing? He never would have imagined that something like that could actually work. I would have tried that if I'd known. Zhang Yunsheng was a little regretful. He had been the first to try, but he hadn't thought of this method. A trace of doubt flickered in the black talisman old demon's eyes. His dark gaze lingered on Li Chang'an for a moment, but he didn't ask anything, merely putting on a smiling face. Congratulations to Taoist Wu on regaining his freedom, and congratulations to Taoist Li on obtaining this treasure. Haha, many thanks to Taoist Black Talisman for the assistance. Wu Ming was in high spirits, and the qi throughout his body was surging rapidly. Li Chang'an was also in a good mood. He put away the evergreen vine seed and exchanged a few pleasantries with the Black Talisman old demon with a smile. Just then Tang Yuan suddenly spoke up. Taoist Li, I'm also interested in this demon vine. I wonder if you would be willing to part with it. My apologies, Taoist Tang. I have no plans to sell this item at the moment. Li Chang'an wore a faint smile, his tone calm. Tang Yuan sighed with regret. In that case, I won't insist. He said no more, his jade-green eyes gazing elsewhere. A moment later, Wu Ming waved his hand, dispelling the array in the room. His face wreathed in smiles, he said, Everyone, I will be holding my foundation establishment ceremony in 7 days. I hope you will all grace me with your presence. The four of them all agreed. A foundation establishment ceremony was a good opportunity to meet fellow cultivators. After some more conversation, they all took their leave. Just as Li Chang'an was about to depart, he suddenly received a sound transmission from Wu Ming. Taoist Li, be wary of Tang Yuan. The man is known for being unscrupulous. Since he's taken a liking to that demon vine seed, he certainly won't give up so easily. I'm worried he'll try to ambush you outside. I understand. Thank you for the warning, Taoist Wu. Li Chang'an's expression didn't change as he left the premises. A short while later, he flew out of the black market, transforming into a streak of light and heading toward Yellow Crane Immortal City. Halfway there, he came to a sudden halt, his gaze turning wary as he looked ahead. Not far in front of him stood a young cultivator dressed in dark green robes. It was none other than the son of the five-poison wanderer, Tang Yuan. Taoist Tang, why are you blocking my path here? Don't be nervous, Taoist Li. I merely wish to discuss a trade. Tang Yuan was all smiles, his voice gentle. He lightly tapped his storage pouch, taking out one valuable treasure after another. Taoist Li, I sincerely wish to trade with you for that demon vine seed. If any of these treasures catch your eye, you can take them all. His tone was earnest. He seemed to be overflowing with sincerity. However, the 10,000 poison goo in Li Chang'an's sleeve suddenly alerted him. He had been poisoned. Poison cultivators are simply impossible to guard against. He had just met this Tang Yuan and spoken only a single sentence, yet he had already been afflicted with several types of Tier 2 poisons. If not for the 10,000 poison goo, even if he didn't die, he would have been half dead. Not far away, Tang Yuan asked with a smile, How about it, Taoist Li? Have you seen any treasure you like? If not, I have more here and I can even go to my father, the five-poison wanderer, to get a treasure for you. He appeared completely sincere as he took out a few more treasures. But Li Chang'an was also an expert in poisons. He could see it. This Tang Yuan is stalling for time, waiting for the poison to take effect. Li Chang'an secretly used his magic, silently gathering a ray of cyanwood divine light. Taoist Tang, I'm quite interested in that cyanwood elemental crystal of yours. I wonder if you'd let me have a look. Of course. Tang Yuan nodded. With a flash of light from his hand, a cyan green crystal stone immediately appeared. Taoist Li, this is the... Before he could finish his sentence, a ray of cyanwood divine light shot straight at his face. Tang Yuan's expression changed drastically. He had no time to dodge and was struck head-on by the divine light. Boom! He exploded in midair, turning into a shower of cyan green blood. This guy's blood is a potent poison. Li Chang'an was secretly astonished and grew more wary of the 5 poison wanderer lineage. He resolved to accelerate the cultivation of his 10,000 poison goo and help it reach the Tier 2 middle stage as soon as possible. Just as he was thinking this, Li Chang'an suddenly noticed a squirming poisonous insect within the splattered, bloody rain. Its aura had shockingly reached Tier 2. At the same time, the 10,000 poison goo in his sleeve sent him a feeling of longing. You want to devour this poisonous insect. Li Chang'an sensed the little creature's feelings and, with a flick of his wrist, summoned the Tier 2 poisonous insect into his hand. The 10,000 poison goo squirmed out, continuing to project its desire. Go on, eat. Li Chang'an restrained the poisonous insect and fed it to the 10,000 poison goo. The 10,000 poison goo conveyed feelings of joy and gratitude, opening its small mouth and devouring the poisonous insect bite by bite. During this time, Li Chang'an collected Tang Yuan's terrified soul. After a moment, he erased all traces of the fight and departed with Tang Yuan's storage pouch. Half an hour later, Li Chang'an entered a deep underground cavern. He wiped away the restriction on the storage pouch, opened it, and carefully took stock of the treasures inside. Cyanwood elemental crystal. With a thought, he took out the crystal stone. The object was nearly the size of 2 fists and was worth around 20,000 spirit stones. It was highly beneficial for the growth of spirit plants. Tang Yuan was a poison cultivator. He probably used this to raise his poisonous creatures. Li Chang'an gave a casual sweep and saw a large number of highly toxic spirit plants inside the storage pouch. The vast majority of treasures in this storage pouch were poison Dao treasures. There was almost nothing Li Chang'an could use. This will be perfect for cultivating the 10,000 poison goo. Meanwhile, in the black market, a middle-aged man in green robes suddenly appeared. Upon seeing this man, the expressions of the many cultivators in the black market changed. They all held their breath and retreated to a safe distance. This was because the man was none other than the infamous 5 poison wanderer. Whereas Wu Ming of Withered Wood Cliff. The 5 poison wanderer's expression was icy, his sickly green gaze sweeping over the crowd. Wu Ming's expression turned grave. He protected himself with a layer of spiritual power and cupped his hands in a salute toward the man. 5 poison Taoist, what matter brings you here? My son's heart-connected goo is dead. What? Wu Ming's face paled slightly. The death of a heart-connected goo meant that its owner was also dead. But Tang Yuan had only just left his place a short while ago. The 5 poison wanderer said indifferently, his skills were inferior, so he deserved to die. But the poisonous insect that was being cultivated inside his body must be retrieved. Hearing this, everyone in the black market was secretly horrified. This 5 poison wanderer was far too heartless, actually using his own son's body to cultivate a poisonous insect. In his eyes was the life of his offspring less precious than a single poisonous insect. Chapter 284, Chapter 199, Spiritual Root Enhancement. Most cultivators value their descendants highly. Even those who would never go so far as the 5 poison wanderer, who treated his own descendants as tools for nurturing poisonous insects. This old poisoner is truly vicious, living up to his name as the 5 poison wanderer. Wu Ming's expression was guarded as he thought to himself. He cupped his fists and said in a low voice, 5 poison Taoist, I truly know nothing about Tang Yuan's death. I hope you can understand. My son came to see you before he died, yet you claim to know nothing. The 5 poison wanderer's gaze was icy, his jade-green eyes fixed on Wu Ming as a sinister light flickered within them. A faint, almost imperceptible pressure slowly descended upon Wu Ming. Wu Ming's face turned pale. He had a strong suspicion that the killer was Li Chang'an. However, Li Chang'an was his great benefactor, having practically saved his life. Even though he was a tribulation cultivator, he refused to sell out the man who had saved his life. Just then, the black talisman old demon suddenly let out a strange laugh. 5 poison old fiend, your son Tang Yuan most likely coveted Li Fan's treasure and was killed by him for it. Li Fan. The 5 poison wanderer's brow furrowed slightly. He had, of course, heard the name Li Fan before. But in his memory, Li Fan was just a mere qi refining junior cultivator. Has that brat reached foundation establishment? Correct. The black talisman old demon held nothing back, publicly recounting the conversation between Tang Yuan and Li Chang'an in the secret chamber. Wu Ming and Jiang Yunsheng both frowned at him. Regarding what happened in the secret chamber, although they had no explicit agreement, they had all tacitly agreed to take the secret to their graves. But the black talisman old demon, without any regard for this, had blurted it all out. Although Wu Ming and Jiang Yunsheng were displeased, there was nothing they could do. The two of them were only at the early stage of foundation establishment. They weren't qualified to order around a late stage of foundation establishment cultivator like the black talisman old demon. After listening to the black talisman old demon's account, the 5 poison wanderers stated coldly, "Tell that Li Fan to come and see me within a month. If he truly did kill my son, he need only return the poisonous insect to me. Otherwise, he can pay with his life." With that, he turned and left. At this moment, Li Chang'an was still oblivious to all of this. Even if he had known, it would have been pointless. The Tier 2 poisonous insect had already been devoured by the 10,000 poison goo. There was no way he was going to hand over the 10,000 poison goo. Not long after, Li Chang'an returned to Yellow Crane, Immortal City. He first went to ask Su Fugui about the date of the foundation establishment ceremony and learned that it was a month away. Afterward, he made a trip to the 10,000 Treasures Tower and purchased a large number of treasures for cultivating spirit plants. According to the description in the Spirit Ascension technique, the more powerful a heaven and earth spirit root is cultivated, the more spirit charm it will give back in return. Time to head back. Li Chang'an glanced at his storage pouch, which was now filled to the brim with cultivation treasures. Satisfied, he flew off. His mind was now completely consumed with the thought of improving his spiritual root. He didn't even think to seek out Zheng Qingqing to discuss their cultivation. 2 hours later, Li Chang'an returned to Changqing Mountain. He pushed the array to its limits, ensuring no outsiders could disturb him. Then he took out the emerald-like seed, the eternal green vine. Li Chang'an's spirit soared. His eyes shone brightly as he stared at the seed without blinking. This was his hope for ascending his spiritual root. He immediately began circulating the Spirit Ascension technique. Wisps of magical power flowed from his meridians, materializing before him as a brilliant golden symbiotic spirit contract. With a mere thought, Li Chang'an placed his spiritual imprint upon the spirit contract. The seed, in turn, emitted a pulse, leaving its own imprint on the contract. With that, the contract was sealed. Li Chang'an immediately sensed a faint, almost imperceptible connection form between himself and the evergreen vine seed. With a wave of his hand, he sent out a blast of spiritual power to clear a small spirit field outside his cave residence. He then took out the vast quantities of precious spiritual earth he had purchased in Yellow Crane, Immortal City. After he spread the spiritual earth, the entire spirit field instantly began to glow with myriad colors, shrouded in a swirling spiritual mist. Growing in a place like this, even a common roadside weed could quickly transform into a spirit medicine. The spiritual earth for this spirit field cost me a total of 50,000 spirit stones. Little one, you'd better grow well. Li Chang'an buried the evergreen vine seed in the soil and waited quietly. After a dozen breaths, the evergreen vine seed trembled and split open. Immediately after, pale white roots emerged, spreading throughout the spiritual earth and rapidly absorbing the abundant spiritual power. Because of the symbiotic spirit contract between them, Li Chang'an could soon feel its cheerful and joyous emotion. A few more breaths passed. A hint of green appeared within the rolling spiritual mist of the spirit field. It sprouted. A smile spread across Li Chang'an's face. Before his very eyes, that hint of green rapidly grew into a chopstick-sized cyan rattan. The cyan rattan was a vibrant cyan green, just as Li Chang'an had seen in his dream, only much, much smaller. It swayed gently, radiating feelings of fondness and trust. After a moment, a hint of craving for treasures appeared within those feelings. Li Chang'an was prepared. He took out a large number of cultivation treasures from his storage pouch, including the cyan wood elemental crystal, and tossed them all into the spirit field. These treasures had cost him more than 100,000 spirit stones in total. Now his storage pouch was practically empty. The spirit stones he had accumulated over many years were nearly gone. All that remained were some treasures he had no use for and hadn't sold yet, most of which came from his enemies, like Cao Xiaolong and his junior martial brothers. Of course, as long as he could ascend his spiritual route, no cost was too great. With his current abilities, Li Chang'an had plenty of ways to earn money. Eat up, grow as fast as you can. The evergreen vine swayed, transmitting a joyous feeling. It sent out countless pale roots, like strands of silk, which wrapped around all the cultivation treasures and began to rapidly absorb their essence. Chapter 285, Chapter 199, Spiritual Root Enhancement. For the next 2 hours, this evergreen vine grew at a speed visible to the naked eye. Its aura grew stronger and stronger, surging from Tier 1 early stage to Tier 1 middle stage. It then quickly broke through to Tier 1 late stage and soon reached Tier 1 peak. Another 15 minutes passed, and a slight disturbance occurred in the surrounding heaven and earth spiritual power. Is it about to advance? Li Chang'an's heart leaped with joy. He immediately shot to his feet. Moving like a blur, he swiftly laid out a Tier 2 spirit gathering array. Sparing no expense, he used all his remaining spirit stones to power the array at full force. Dense heaven and earth spiritual power gathered frantically, transforming into a spiritual mist that instantly enveloped the entire spirit field. In the end, it even began to pour down as spirit rain. About an hour later, the last spirit stone in Li Chang'an's storage pouch was completely consumed. At that same moment, the evergreen vine successfully advanced. The vine grew to a size of 10 zhang, resembling a great green python as it emanated a Tier 2 aura. At that moment, Li Chang'an noticed something. A wonderfully strange wisp of power flowed from the evergreen vine back into his body. He immediately used the spirit testing technique to inspect himself, checking the amount of his spirit charm. 12 wisps. Li Chang'an was overcome with pleasant surprise. His natural spirit charm was only 11 wisps, just barely above the threshold for a low-grade spirit root. Without some kind of miracle, he would have been stuck at 11 wisps for the rest of his life. But now, he had actually gained another wisp. My spiritual root has improved. Li Chang'an was thrilled. Years ago, when it was determined before the immortal sect that he had a low-grade spirit root, he had begun to yearn for a way to improve it. That desire had persisted for decades, and now it was finally being realized. Li Chang'an immediately circulated his cultivation technique, absorbing the heaven and earth spiritual power to cultivate. He could clearly feel it. His cultivation speed was slightly faster than before. Although the increase was less than 10%, it was an improvement nonetheless. Moreover, the evergreen vine's growth wasn't over. Its root system was wrapped around the numerous cultivation treasures, continuously devouring their essence. An instant later, a second vine appeared. This vine sprouted from the base of the original one. It started as a tender shoot, but it grew rapidly with the passage of time. About 4 hours later, this vine had also grown to a size of 10 zhang. Immediately after, it once again fed back a wisp of spirit charm to him. Li Chang'an used the spirit testing technique to look within himself and found that his spirit charm had increased to 13 wisps. He circulated his cultivation technique again. This time, his efficiency in absorbing spiritual power had improved significantly. Well done, little guy. Li Chang'an was all smiles, in high spirits. From now on, he would no longer be limited by his spiritual route. The long, immortal path before him was now stretching endlessly into the distance. A while later, a third vine appeared. However, it didn't grow to 10 zhang. It stopped at about 5 zhang. The treasures Li Chang'an had thrown out had been completely devoured. If there were no more treasures, it could only absorb heaven and earth spiritual power to grow, and its growth rate would be incredibly slow. I'll have to get some more treasures to cultivate the evergreen vine. But I can't invest all my spirit stones in it. I need to save some for my own cultivation and body refinement, and I can't slow down the nurturing of the 10,000 poison goo either. Chang'an silently contemplated his future use of spirit stone. Gradually, a feeling of poverty welled up inside him. Sigh, how great would it be if I could just rob the treasure vault of Yellow Crane Immortal City? He gazed toward Yellow Crane Immortal City and sighed. The treasure vault of a golden core influence was bound to have plenty of good things inside, but unfortunately, he completely lacked the ability to rob it. 2 days later, Chang'an changed his identity multiple times, moving between the black market and Yellow Crane Immortal City. He sold off the treasures from the storage pouches of Cao Xiaolong, Tang Yuan, and the others in batches. During this time, he learned of the 5 Poison Wanderers' earlier message. The 5 Poison Wanderer wants me to see him. Chang'an shook his head slightly. He had no desire to meet that old poison master. That old coot was already at the middle stage of foundation establishment, and might even be close to breaking through to the late stage of foundation establishment. His poison techniques were at their peak and impossible to guard against. His Tier 2 early stage 10,000 poison goo alone was simply not enough to defend against him. Wu Ming asked worriedly, "Taoist Li, are you really not going?" "If I go, I most likely won't be coming back." "That's true." The power gap between them was just too great. Besides, the 5 Poison Wanderers' reputation was exactly sterling. If Chang'an went alone, the outcome was easy to imagine. He put the matter to the back of his mind and continued selling his treasures. In the end, all the spiritual artifacts, elixir pills, talismans, and other treasures he had accumulated over the years were sold off. The low-grade spirit stones in Chang'an's storage pouch were piled up like a mountain, numbering over 200,000. He directly spent 150,000 spirit stones, changing his identity to visit various shops and purchase a large quantity of treasures for cultivating spirit plants, leaving only 50,000 in reserve. After completing his purchases, Chang'an returned to Chang'an Mountain. He took out all the treasures and threw them to the evergreen vine. Over the next day, the evergreen vine grew frantically, and the 3rd vine quickly grew to a size of 10 jang. Then came a 4th, a 5th, and a 6th vine. The growth only stopped after the 7th vine appeared. Due to the lack of treasures, this 7th vine only grew about halfway. At this point, the spirit charm in Chang'an's body had reached 17 wisps. Among low-grade spirit roots, this was already considered quite good. He circulated his cultivation technique again, and the surrounding heaven and earth spiritual power rushed toward him. His efficiency at absorbing spiritual power far surpassed what it was before. So this is what it feels like to have an excellent spiritual root. Chang'an closed his eyes slightly, savoring this hard-won feeling. Compared to now, his past days of cultivation had been far too bitter. If he had been born with this much spirit charm, perhaps he would have reached foundation establishment long ago, instead of only breaking through to this realm in his 50s. Chapter 286, Chapter 199, Spiritual Root Enhancement. I absolutely cannot let anyone know about my spiritual roots enhancement, not even the people closest to me. Otherwise, it could get me killed. Fortunately, at the end of this spirit testing technique, there is also an incantation for a spirit concealment technique. The creator of these techniques was quite thorough. It included methods for spirit ascension, spirit testing, and spirit concealment. Chang'an immediately used the spirit concealment technique to hide the increase in his spirit charm. This way, if anyone used magic or a treasure to inspect his spiritual root, they would find it was the same as before, still at the very bottom of the low-grade category. At that moment, the evergreen vine suddenly sent a wisp of thought to communicate with Chang'an. Because of their symbiotic spirit contract, their communication was very smooth. From this communication, Chang'an learned that the evergreen vine required a large amount of treasures to grow. If there weren't enough, it could use other things as substitutes, such as demon beasts or other spirit plants. Demon beasts and spirit plants naturally contained large amounts of spiritual power, making them equivalent to living treasures that could all be devoured. Chang'an was a little worried. If it devours too much demon beast flesh and blood, will it turn into that strange, demonic form again? The evergreen vine reassured him. It had taken on that appearance before because it had started down the wrong path. But now it was on the right path and wouldn't undergo any strange transformations. That's good. Chang'an felt a little relieved. It was currently the beast tide. A casual trip outside Yellow Crane Immortal City would be enough to fill a storage pouch with demon beast corpses. He didn't hesitate and took action immediately. 2 days later at dusk, Chang'an returned with the corpses of dozens of demon beasts, including 3 Tier 2 demon beasts. He took out all the demon beast corpses and piled them up next to the spirit field. Instantly, the thick stench of blood filled the air. Xiaohai and Dawang immediately rushed over, and after getting Chang'an's permission, they began to feast heartily. The evergreen vine also waved its vines, coiling around one corpse after another and dragging them beneath the spirit field. Go on, eat your fill. A smile appeared on Chang'an's face, but it was tinged with exhaustion. The slaughter of the past 2 days had been quite perilous. Those demon beasts were not stupid. When they realized he was too strong, they all avoided him, letting the Tier 2 demon beasts engage him instead. After he killed one Tier 2 demon beast, a dozen more immediately swarmed to attack him, including several at the Tier 2 late stage. He fought as he retreated, managing to withstand the assault with his Tier 2 body refinement, and even managed to slay 2 more Tier 2 demon beasts. The demon beasts he killed were all carefully chosen. Their beast cores were very suitable for alchemy. Including the cyan wood wolf he hunted before his foundation establishment, he now had 4 demon cores suitable for refining foundation establishment pills. With a thought from Chang'an, 4 demon cores with gentle auras appeared before him. If I want to make money, it has to be through elixir pills. Selling pills is more profitable than killing. He planned to refine foundation establishment pills. Foundation establishment pills were incredibly valuable, and each one could be sold for a sky-high price. His alchemy skill had now reached Tier 2 middle grade and was faintly touching the threshold of Tier 2 top grade. Refining foundation establishment pills shouldn't be a problem. However, Chang'an didn't start refining foundation establishment pills right away. He first refined some ordinary Tier 2 middle grade elixir pills to practice, then he refined a few lifespan extension pills for himself. He had already taken 2 Tier 2 lifespan extension pills before. Due to the unique nature of his ancient wood evergreen technique, he could continue to take more. After regulating his breath for a moment, Chang'an swallowed the 3rd pill. The medicinal power dissolved, and a profound power of time emanated from his body. After a moment, he opened his eyes and silently assessed the change in his lifespan. 9 more years of life, not bad. He smiled and swallowed the 4th pill. The effect of this lifespan extension pill was weaker, extending his life by 4 years. The 5th pill was even weaker, only adding 1 year. The 6th only added a month or 2. After that, there was almost no effect. My lifespan is now over 572 years. Chang'an made a brief assessment and was very satisfied with his current lifespan. A long life is a huge advantage. I'll rest for a few days, then refine the foundation establishment pills. Chang'an left the alchemy room. Refining pills in succession had placed a considerable strain on his divine sense, making him feel a bit tired. He went to the spirit field and checked on the state of the eternal green vine. Its growth rate from devouring demon beast corpses was naturally slower than directly consuming expensive treasures, but it was much better than slowly absorbing heaven and earth spiritual power. The 7th cyan rattan had already grown by a small section. At this rate, it wouldn't be long before it grew to a size of 10 zhang. Reassured, Chang'an returned to his cave residence to rest. The next day, his energy restored, Chang'an began to dismantle the Tier 2 arrays on Chang'an Mountain. Having too many arrays isn't a good thing. There's too much redundancy and multiple flaws. They need a proper overhaul. After all, Chang'an Mountain was his domain. Its defenses couldn't be too weak. Chang'an used the many treasures he salvaged from dismantling the old arrays to upgrade the original Tier 2 top-grade mirror flower water moon formation into a quasi-Tier 3 array. Just like that, only 2 arrays remained on Chang'an Mountain. One was Tier 3 and the other was quasi-Tier 3. Working in concert, they were enough to fend off a core formation master. As for any enemies below the core formation realm, however many came, that many would die. Not even those at the late stage of foundation establishment could withstand it. I still have some array materials left over. I'm attending Wu Ming's foundation establishment ceremony tomorrow, so I can sell these materials for some spirit stones while I'm at it. Li Chang'an mused. He returned to his cave residence and sat cross-legged to cultivate. That night at midnight, the divination appeared as usual, showing a peaceful trigram, indicating no unexpected events would occur. The next day, the sun rose in the east. Li Chang'an switched to his identity as Li Fan, applied a light disguise, and entered the black market to attend Wu Ming's foundation establishment ceremony. Taoist Wu, here are some elixir pills for recuperation. He offered the congratulatory gift with a smile. Wu Ming hurriedly refused. Taoist Li, you have shown me immense kindness. How could I possibly accept another gift from you? In fact, he had never expected Li Chang'an to come at all. Chapter 287. Chapter 200. 60th Grand Birthday, the Old Devil pays a visit. The foundation establishment ceremony was crowded, with prying eyes everywhere. If Li Chang'an were recognized, the five poison wanderer lineage would certainly not spare him. But he had come anyway, braving the danger. Taoist Li, please come inside. Wu Ming silently noted the gesture and invited Li Chang'an inside to take a seat. By now, quite a few people had already arrived. Over a dozen foundation establishment tribulation cultivators had arrived, Jiang Yunsheng and the black talisman old demon among them. Even the five poison wander lineage had sent a foundation establishment cultivator. His name was Yan Feng, the five poison wanderer's senior disciple. He had an early-stage foundation establishment cultivation, and his poison techniques were just as deadly. Taoist Wu, did that Li Fan really not come? Yan Feng's expression was cold, his pupils an emerald green. He scanned the entire ceremony, trying to find Li Chang'an. But Li Chang'an's disguise technique was exceptionally masterful. In fact, he was standing right beside Yan Feng, but Yan Feng hadn't noticed him in the slightest. Wu Ming said to Yan Feng, Taoist Yan, I Wu Ming never lie, Taoist Li really didn't come. Yan Feng snorted coldly, asked no more questions, and walked straight to a corner to sit down. He clearly intended to wait there until the ceremony was over. Wu Ming secretly sent a sound transmission to Li Chang'an. Taoist Li, you must be careful, don't expose yourself. Don't worry. Li Chang'an was very confident in his disguise technique. Besides, last night's divination had indicated a peaceful day, so there should be no surprises. Soon the ceremony officially began. After a round of congratulations, the guests began to chat freely among themselves. During this time, Li Chang'an acquainted himself with several foundation establishment tribulation cultivators, discussing cultivation insights and exchanging a few treasures. In the midst of conversation, he learned that these foundation establishment tribulation cultivators hadn't come specifically for the ceremony, but for the impending beast tide. A beast tide presented both danger and opportunity, which perfectly suited the adventurous nature of tribulation cultivators. A moment later, Li Chang'an suddenly received a sound transmission. Taoist Li, you really have some nerve showing up here. He turned to look. He saw Jiang Yunsheng standing not far away. Taoist Jiang, how did you recognize me? Your disguise is excellent, Taoist Li. I couldn't recognize you, but my venerable soul banner did. It sensed the aura of its own kind. I see. Li Chang'an's expression remained unchanged, but inwardly he was a little surprised. The artifact spirit in Jiang Yunsheng's venerable soul banner seemed to have recovered quite well. In contrast, the artifact spirit in his own venerable soul banner was in a volatile state. It would frequently fall into a deep slumber, and he could only communicate with it on rare occasions. After a moment of thought, he asked, Taoist Jiang, do you plan to inform the five poison wander lineage? Rest assured, Taoist Li, I Jiang Yunsheng am not like that black talisman old demon. Jiang Yunsheng made it clear that he had no relationship with the five poison wanderer lineage. In fact, he found the five poison wanderers' methods detestable, simply because the man reminded him of his own father. His father was also a heartless and treacherous man. Years ago, to obtain foundation establishment resources, his father had sold him and his mother to demonic cultivators to be used as corpse refining materials. Hearing this, Li Chang'an was secretly astonished. He had often heard that some people would abandon everything for the sake of their cultivation, but he had never witnessed such a thing firsthand. Today, he finally had. Zhang Yunsheng continued, Taoist Li, your strength is considerable. I sought you out today to invite you to join the Huang Alliance. The Huang Alliance? Li Chang'an was even more surprised. That's the faction Yi Hao established. The faction's ultimate goal is the complete destruction of Yellow Crane Immortal City. Taoist Jiang, do you have a grudge against Yellow Crane Immortal City? I do. Zhang Yunsheng's voice was cold as he explained the reason. His father was now an honored guest elder at Yellow Crane Immortal City, with a cultivation at the late stage of foundation establishment. But he was only at the early stage of foundation establishment. It would be difficult to get revenge on his own, so he wanted to recruit more allies to stand against Yellow Crane Immortal City together. At present, the Huang Alliance already had 5 foundation establishment cultivators in its ranks, and even more chi refining cultivators. It's already grown to 5 foundation establishment cultivators. That Yi Hao fellow is really something else, Li Chang'an thought. Of course, it could also be because Yellow Crane Immortal City has offended too many people over the years. Disciples from a golden core influence like that are mostly arrogant and act without restraint. They'll annihilate an entire clan on a whim, but there are always 1 or 2 fish who escape the net and grow up. Zhang Yunsheng asked again, Taoist Li, what are your thoughts? Taoist Jiang, I have no grudge against Yellow Crane Immortal City, so I have no intention of joining the Huang Alliance. Although Li Chang'an also held a grudge against Yellow Crane Immortal City, he had no desire to confront them openly. He preferred to hide in the shadows and bide his time. After all, with over 500 years of life ahead of him, there was no need to be hasty. Next, Li Chang'an asked about the matter of souls. Zhang Yunsheng's venerable soul banner contained several thousand souls, a truly astonishing number. Taoist Jiang, how have you managed to accumulate so many souls? Do you have some channel for purchasing them? A few thousand, how could that be considered a lot? Zhang Yunsheng seemed somewhat taken aback. Taoist Li, with your strength, couldn't you gather enough just by killing a few sanctimonious righteous cultivators? Hearing this, Li Chang'an felt a sense of resignation. Where am I supposed to find so many sanctimonious righteous cultivators to kill? After all, I'm not a true tribulation cultivator. This identity is just a side hustle. I don't normally go after righteous cultivators. But the tribulation cultivators present here were different. After a while, these visiting foundation establishment tribulation cultivators actually began a serious discussion about which of the region's righteous influences were easiest to attack. Cao Xiaolong of the King Cao family is dead, leaving only Cao Zhengsheng. Is anyone interested in testing their defenses? If we can break through, we'll get our hands on the treasures the Cao family has accumulated over centuries. That Cao Zhengsheng is at the middle stage of foundation establishment. Relying on his array, he won't be an easy target. On the other hand, there's that turtle from Ping Mountain, Li Chang'an. He's only at the early stage of foundation establishment, and his strength is nothing special. Hearing this,